Well, welcome. I have the one and only, the stat collector. I'm going to really enjoy this conversation with the stat collector. I've known him for quite a long time. We've roughly been creators for a very similar time, but it seems like forever I've known him. So officially, the What podcast welcomes the stat collector to the channel.
Hello, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, CPM, my friend.
Yeah, great. It's Friday evening. Probably had a good week.
Yes, busy, but good. It's been productive.
Super, super. I see you've been banging out plenty of content. Really enjoyed it. I haven't seen your 50p one today. Stephen, there's a 50p video out there. We must see it. We must see it and support it.
Well, unfortunately, there's no Star Wars 50p, so it's not completely for Stephen, but he might still enjoy it.
Bless him. He's such a good guy.
He is.
Stack letter. So we're going to have a bit of a chat. We're going to have a little bit of a chat around who you are. And I always like to start off. We all know you from a creator point of view as the stat collector on YouTube. And so it'll be really cool to sort of know a little bit about your backstory and how you become the stat collector. So we're going to roll it right back and say, what was the little stat collector like?
Little Stat
Yeah, what
Collector.
was it like being little stat collector once upon a time back in the day?
I'd like to say he was a lovable rogue, but he was definitely a rogue. Yeah, no, I was very often getting my knees scraped and getting into trouble and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
How was school and bits and pieces like that, primary school and that?
School was was colourful, should I say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I buckled down after school. I went back to college after I did my GCSEs to resit my GCSEs because I realised what a mistake I made at school. Yeah, I think the saying is youth is wasted on the young, and I think that's very true.
Yeah.
It's such an important period of your life, and you don't realize just how important it is at the time, and all you want to do is hang around with your friends and have fun. Well, I did anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah, that was one of my main problems.
Yeah, look at it as one big social exercise, really.
Exactly.
So would I say from that you didn't really enjoy it, or did you just enjoy the social side of it more and didn't get
Yeah,
much out of it? Um,
but I enjoyed the social side of it more. Definitely,
yeah,
I didn't get terrible grades at school, but I could have done a lot better,
yeah,
and that's why I went back to do my resit. It was only a couple of subjects that I had to resit.
yeah,
After that, I went to college and I studied software practicing, computer science, basically.
yeah.
Software development, wrote a few computer programs, that kind of thing, designed a few websites. Realized during that if I carried on down that path, I was going to live a life of absolute sheer boredom. Anyone who's done any kind of computer programming in the past will know it's literally lines of just millions of different characters. They're not even words.
Yeah.
They're just mixes of numbers of letters, and you get one
Mhm.
little problem with the program. You've got to sit there and scour your way through the whole code to try and find out what's wrong with it. And it wasn't for me. I knew I wanted a job which was more socially active, where I was
Yeah.
engaging with people more than that. So when I came away from that, in my early days I worked in insurance. I was a claims manager for a number of insurance companies. When I never worked for insurance companies directly. I worked for loss adjusters, who are people that insurance companies employ to handle the claims for them. So they'll sell the policies, and a lot of the times they won't deal with their own claims once you make them. They'll pass it over to their approved loss adjuster to look into the claim, validate the loss, make sure it's something that's covered under the insurance, and come up with a valuation of the repairs or cash payment to the customer. It was buildings and contents insurance that I worked in.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it
So
was good.
yeah, so to just get a little bit more of an insight into a baby stack collector. I don't know why I'm calling you a baby stack collector. That's mad. Little stack collector. So school was a bit of a whatever.
Yeah.
Um, social side of life where you grew up? Was there much going on, or is it sort of pretty? Was you sort of a guy that, or a young lad that kind of like to, I don't know, be around at home, or was you really socially active and getting
Yeah.
out there and doing whatever?
Yeah, I was never home. I was literally
Yeah.
never home. I'd have to come back and climb through the window at 3 o'clock in the morning because I've been out all night and the door was locked.
I
Um,
love it.
yeah, absolutely. Luckily, I was a skinny kid and I
Yeah.
could fit through the little window we had. But yeah, no, I wanted to be out socializing,
Yeah.
just spending time with friends, going
Yeah.
away, going abroad. I did a lot of traveling when I was younger.
All
Um,
right.
throughout the world. Not done much in later years.
Mhm.
It's kind of it's something that I just really don't feel the need to do anymore. I think we've got loads of lovely places in the UK. If we get some nice summer, I'll go to the beach or something like that. But it's been a few years since I've. It probably was just before COVID. I think it was 2019 the last time I went abroad, and then COVID happened, and I haven't been abroad since. But yeah, when I was a younger lad, I loved traveling. I'd like to go on holiday at least 3 times a year,
Yeah.
go and see different places. I got my scuba diving qualifications when I was in Hawaii.
Yes, I want to talk about that at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah, that would be cool.
Mm.
And I was another thing I enjoyed when being a kid, and something that I highly recommend to anyone who's got children to recommend to his children. I was an air cadet, and then later on a RAF reserve,
Yeah.
and some of the stuff I got to do with that CPM mate was just incredible. I got 10 hours of flight time. Learning to fly light aircrafts. We were using Bulldog aircrafts at the time. We'd just come away from the Chipmunks, which was another type of small aircraft.
Yeah.
I was a RAF marksman, which was you had to shoot. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was 5 shots within the circumference of a 5 pence piece to become an RAF marksman. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, you could be an ATC marksman, which was an air training course, basically air cadets marksman, and you could, if you pop 5 shots in the circumference of a 2 pence piece, and then you became an RAF marksman if you could get it within the 5 pence piece.
yeah.
So that was something I absolutely loved doing. We used to go to camps multiple times through the year. I was at RAF Valley in Bangor in Wales, and a lot of people may not realise this, but we had a really horrific tornado crash. Tornado being a type of aircraft
Yep.
where it was taking off and the pilot lost control of the aircraft and it flipped over. And just as it flipped over, he ejected from the aircraft. And
Oh,
it was very, very nasty. But I was there very shortly after that, and all the wreckage was still there. It was still being investigated. And yeah, that was an experience when I was young.
right, mate, you've just blown my mind with so much over a certain period of time.
Well, we've got to. I'm about 14 at that point, so
Okay, so let me try and so we're back in our school days. We're at
yeah,
secondary school.
yeah,
Um, you obviously don't like being indoors very much. You sound like so much like me.
yeah.
You love the outdoor, and it sounds like you're very adventurous because you've got into the air cadets. Was it first?
Yes, yeah.
What sort of age do you get into that? Is there an age limit?
I think it was 13. 13
Okay.
you had to be able to join in there, and I think it went through to when you were 21.
Okay, so you join the air cadet. Is that something that just come over you? Just, oh, sorry, I want to join the air cadets, or is that something socially your friends were in it, or?
Yeah, yeah. I had a friend who was in the Air Cadets, and he got a couple of us to join with him. I stuck to it. The other people that joined with me didn't, and then
Okay.
the friend I had, he actually stopped going himself not long after I started. But
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the adventurous side of it, and
Yeah.
I stuck to it for quite a bit longer.
Okay, so you're doing this while you're at school, secondary school.
Yeah,
And what's the process? Is that because I know nothing about it? We have got a local air cadets place near where I live. I drive by it every now and then, but I don't take any notice of it. So I have no idea about what's involved. But you've just told me loads of stuff that I really want to dig into because it sounds really interesting.
no problem.
So what do they do? Do they do weekend stuff, or is it an evening, or how does that? What's the process, dude?
Well, my squadron at the time I was there, it may, this is a long time ago, so it may have changed since then. But when I started, you joined up as and you were in probation, and I can't remember how long it was, but you had to spend a certain amount in probation, and then it pretty much like the actual armed forces, and then
Okay,
you have a passing out ceremony, and that's when you become an actual active member of the squadron. We used to do it on a Wednesday and a Friday night.
okay,
They were our squadron nights. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. But
okay.
it may have been 7 till 10. I can't quite recall on that. And what we used to do is used to do a lot of weekends just as the squadron at our local military of defence base. And other than that, we had things like week camps, which was invited to all the squadrons in our region, which was the East Midlands region. We also went to various different RAF bases throughout the country throughout
Wow.
the year. Yeah, and we also used to do one thing once a year, which was known as Wing Field Day, and that was a competition between all the different squadrons.
Okay.
We'd be scored on marching, shooting. We used to have to make dioramas, and all different kinds of things. Imagine like a military version of kind of a school sports day.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Oh wow, that sounds really cool. So that obviously, in a sense, like right up your street because you're out there, out. You sound like a guy that just likes freedom
Yeah.
and being out in nature and doing something with your hands and bits and pieces.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that was from the age of 14 for how long?
I think I stayed until I was about 18, 19. I could have stayed in
Wow.
longer.
Okay.
Yeah, I became a reserve at 16. It was through my squadron, and it's what was known as a VRT, a voluntary reserve, voluntary reserve troop. So because you've already had that training as part of your squadron as the cadets,
Sure.
you could put yourself forward once you got to 16 if you were selected to be a actual reserve for the RAF. And if we ever went into war at the time, you could get called up just like the other reserves, which was quite daunting in a way. But fortunately, at the time, I was
Us.
never called up. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Thankfully. Yeah.
yeah, looking back, I mean, I was, as many young men do, I kind of glorified war when I
Yeah.
was younger, and yeah, I'm a lot more sensible with that kind of thing nowadays.
Yeah. So they obviously taught you to shoot,
Mhm.
and I've never. Like, I'm going to be really naive here, dude, because I don't know a lot about weapons and bits and pieces. So, in do you get the chance to in the? I don't know with the Air Force. I mean, do you do they give you during that Air Cadets years that you have? Do they just give you a chance to have a look and an interest in all aspects of the Air Force?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
When at that point, yeah, absolutely. And then you kind of go down. It's a little bit like school and college. They
Yeah.
kind of tell you everything at the beginning, and then you go down the path you want to go, and you can you know do the things you like to do. Like I say, at the Wingfield Day, there was people who made diorama models, and there was people who shot for the squadron, and different specific people represented the squadron in all these different ways. So yeah, you kind of went down a route later on, but at the beginning, it was you learned pretty much all about the RAF. We
Yeah.
had to, with the flying, we had to learn every single kind of cloud, the difference between a cumulus cloud and a nimbus cloud, etc.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, because I actually got halfway to getting my light aircraft's pilot license.
Really?
Yeah, at the time, to become a light aircraft pilot, you had to do 20 hours flight time, and once you've
Okay.
done your 20 hours, then you can sit a written exam.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I got to 10 hours flight time. It was that kind of stuff was very difficult. There's a lot of people wanting to do it and only a
Sure,
very limited amount of space for
sure.
people to do it. But at least I got the experience of spending 10 hours flying in the plane. The first time I ever went up, I actually managed to do a loop de loop and a barrel roll myself. A loop de loop, obviously pretty explanatory. That's when you go round in a circle. But a barrel
Yeah,
roll is when you do a circle, but the length of the wings, if you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and that was something I got to do on the first ever time going in the air. I can remember, when I did my loop to loop, it was so scary because the way we did it in these light aircraft is what you had to do is you had to pull back on the joystick, which sent you upwards,
Sure.
and you went up and up and up and up and up, and it was exactly like, do you know that part on a roller coaster when it goes
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and you're going upwards really, really steeply, and
yeah.
you get to a point, and it was exactly the same because when you got to a point, you had to just throw the joystick forwards, and that put you in a downwards flight, and then
Okay.
once you picked up enough speed, you pull it back again really hard, and that pulls you up, and that's what enables you to do a loop de loop. I actually did a perfect loop de loop on my first attempt and hit my own turbulence when I
Oh, really?
yeah, the instructor was quite impressed with that actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
I would have shit myself.
Well, he turned around to me and said, "Did you feel that judder right there?" I said, "Yeah, yeah." He said, "Do you know what that is?" I said, "No." He said, "You've just hit your own turbulence and
Wow.
done the perfect loop." And I think it was because I was so rigid, because I was so scared.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There was no give in my movements whatsoever. But yeah, that was fun. The scariest thing that ever happened to me when I was flying is I flew into a cloud, and that was one time the instructor had to take over and get us out because, yeah, when you fly into a cloud, you ever been driving on a ridiculously foggy day where you literally can't see your hand in front of your
Yeah,
face?
yeah.
It's just like that. There's water all over the windscreen. You can't see where you're going at all, and he had to just very quickly get us out of that. But that was the only time I was ever really very, truly scared when I was flying. But yeah, it was a
Wow.
lot of fun.
So what age would you have been taking doing a loop the loop in an airplane?
I was 14.
No way.
Yeah, yeah, it was incredible. And this is what I mean. This is why I say I recommend it
Hmm.
to anyone who's got kids, because some of the stuff we got to do at a young age was absolutely phenomenal. It really was. It's without doing these kind of things, you just would never get to experience that.
Yeah. Very disciplined.
It's yes, yeah. I think it helped me with my discipline so very
Yep.
much.
Yep.
I say I was a bit of an unruly child. I used to love going out to parties and having fun.
Yep.
But cadets really did actually install a little bit of discipline in me, and gave me that kind of military-esque attitude towards things. So yeah, I think it's a brilliant thing for
Yeah.
kids. It really is.
Well, I hope you carried on your socializing as well outside of that.
Yeah, definitely. For a few
I don't
years,
know why I asked you that because I know you're going to say yeah.
yeah, for a few years at least, anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah, not so
Oh
much
wow.
these days.
Yeah, that sounded like an amazing 4 years, really.
Yeah,
It was 14 to 18, you said, didn't you?
18 and 13 to 19, I think it was. But yeah,
All right, okay.
between 4 and 6 years, something like that. Yeah.
That's amazing. And do you actually get the chance to go anywhere outside of the UK in that time with the cadets, or did they keep
Not
you in?
Yeah, not with the cadets. But I don't think there was any opportunity to go outside the UK.
Hmm.
It was all UK based stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Oh, wow. So, what's your greatest memory of being in the cadets? What's the greatest thing that you'll never forget you've ever done?
probably that loop de loop.
Yeah, it sounds it. I'm so jealous, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Joe, what was the airplane you was in?
A bulldog.
And what sort of
It's
airplane
a
was
it's a
that then?
light propeller based aircraft, so very kind of similar to a Cessna, if you know what a
Ah,
Cessna.
right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
single prop on the nose of the plane,
Yeah.
two-person cabin. It fits you and your instructor. And as I said, they just moved from a plane that was known as a Chipmunk to the Bulldog when I
Okay.
started. So I was one of the our year was one of the first to actually use the Bulldog rather than the Chipmunk.
Wow. I'm so jealous. I'm just imagining you doing that.
Yeah,
It
no,
must,
it
is
was
it,
so
is it
cool.
an amazing feeling to actually
Yeah,
actually fly something? And
yeah.
I'm being naive. is it as hard as it looks, or is it sort of fairly
When it
once
comes
you
to
get used to it?
Yeah, when it comes to light aircraft, I mean, it's a very different game when you look at the commercial jets and
Yeah.
the panels and panels of buttons they have over larger jets. But the light propeller aircraft like what we had aren't actually that difficult at all. It's a joystick, and you do most of what you need to do from that joystick. And yeah, I think the hardest part of it was definitely landing.
Mm,
that
okay.
that that was a bit that was always a little bit touchy, but it still is today when I fly commercial. It's always the landing I get.
Yeah. Yeah. The worrying bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know the other thing that blows me away when I watched YouTube, some guys, they're pilots and they just film themselves, don't they, flying
Yeah.
on, going off and wherever. But what one of the things that really I think, oh my God, I don't know if I can get my head around, and that's all the speech they have to do on the radio.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I listen to them and I think it's tango this and whatever
Yeah.
and numbers and letters. And I'm thinking, oh my, how there's so much to this.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think I'm pretty sure I could still quote the phonetic alphabet to you now.
Really?
Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, India, Juliet, Kilo, Lima, Mike, Oscar, November. We're Papa, Romeo, Sierra, Tango, Uniform. I'm probably doing the alphabet wrong, which is very embarrassing. But they're right for it anyway.
We got to P, Papa, Q.
Uh,
Is that Quebec?
Quebec, yeah, Quebec, Sierra, Romeo, Tango, Uniform, Whiskey, Yankee, Zulu.
Well, I'm impressed, mate. I'll tell you what, you just made my bloody night there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got, I just this is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant because I've heard obviously on your stack chats you talking and you mentioned lots of little bits, and I sit there and think, oh shit, I really want to know more about that. I really want to know more about that. So this is like a dream come true podcast for me.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
It really has. It really has, and that'd be really cool for anyone watching this going backwards because yeah, that's a very colourful life you've lived at a very early age. Really, what an opportunity!
I've just knocked my desk. I'm sorry, guys. I do apologise.
No,
Let me
fine.
just pop them back up very quickly. There we go. Sorry about that.
No, no, no worries. No, it's that's amazing. That's really cool. So you're obviously doing this part time in those years. You got your school. Not too impressed about that, by the sounds of it, but you just did it, and it was a nice social thing. You had a bit of a social thing going on outside. It sounds like you was very active in your teenage years.
Yeah.
Is there any was there any little bit of thinking about, oh, I might need to earn some money, or didn't it bother you, or do you want to get any part-time jobs? Where did that even come into it for you at that sort
I
of age?
Yeah, I when I was at college, I worked behind bars. I did a lot of bar work,
Yeah,
part time, evenings and weekends.
yeah.
And then when I left the bar, that's when I got into the insurance and
Ah,
got my
right,
first
okay.
ever job in insurance. That's when I think around same as I say around 1920, 2021 maybe. That's my age, not the year, but yeah, that's when I got into permanent employment, full time employment.
Yeah, 21. So you get your first in insurance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like that or not?
Yeah, I love that. It was great. It was great. I earned actually really good money when I was doing the insurance.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun doing that. Was I led the drainage department for one of the largest UK's insurance companies at the time.
Okay.
So I had quite a few people, probably 100 to 200 people underneath me,
Yeah.
and yeah, I had to deal with some very very big claims, because drainage it obviously affects not just one property but a number of properties, and some of them were even entire estates were all tied into the same drainage systems, and what you had is one person that was known as the lead insurer, and they would basically deal with the claim and tell the other insurance companies how much they had to pay for their contribution towards it. And it was quite weird the way it worked out, because if you were the first person on the run, you literally had to pay for that tiny little bit of the drain, but then the second person would have to pay for their bit and the share of that first bit, and the third person would have to pay for their bit and the share of the other bits, going onwards all the way up the drainage system. So yeah,
Wow.
it could get quite complicated working out the liability for all the different insurers, and I think at the time my largest claim I dealt with was I think about £115,000.
Wow.
Yeah, which I say that's roughly around 20 years ago now. So that
Yeah,
was
it's about
quite,
that back in
yeah.
the 90s, was it?
Not the
Early
90s,
90s?
the early 2000s.
Early
Yeah,
2000s,
yeah,
yeah.
early to mid 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, that sounds like that's quite a important job, really.
Yeah.
Stressful?
Yes. Yeah. It was very stressful at times.
Yeah.
I had to take my work home with me. My social life took a big hit at this point in my life
No,
because
it's not allowed to.
unfortunately, I'm afraid it did. Yeah, when I was working insurance, we had things like, can you remember the Hull floods and the Boscastle floods down in Cornwall?
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they were a very very intense time. I can remember saying at the time, we are basically just human answering machines at this point, because
Wow.
you'd pick up the phone, you'd take a message from that person who was ringing, you put the phone down and it's ringing again. And then you pick up the phone, and all you see all the way through the day was this pile of claims just accumulating on your desk and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you had to work overtime to actually progress those claims on. There was no other way to do it.
Mm.
It was very very intense. I can remember. I believe it took something like 7 days for the UK military to get fresh drinking water to Hull at the time during the floods.
Really?
It was very eye opening. When we talked, because we talked about prepping and stuff on my
Yeah.
channel in the past, and that was very eye opening. Just how long it can take for you to get help in an emergency. It really can be a pretty decent amount of time. So that's why I always say you need to have at least 2 weeks worth of fresh water, bottled water, and canned non-perishable foods at all time, in my opinion. We can't rely on things that's in the fridge and freezer,
Yeah.
because if the electricity goes,
Yeah.
you've lost all that kind of stuff, and that very much opened my eyes to that at that point.
Yeah.
We had so many properties that were just completely flooded. They were no longer habitable until we got the repairs done. But the problem was the same thing had happened to all of the rentals and hotels in the area.
Yeah.
So we had nowhere to put people. We just had nowhere to put people. And what we had to do was we had to buy caravans and give them to people to put on their driveways.
Yeah.
And I remember when we got to the end of it, so many of these people thought they got to keep the caravan. And it was no, that was just a temporary measure till we got you back in your house and we take the caravan back. But that was quite funny.
The bill, I mean, it must have been astronomical, and
Yeah.
the coordination of getting all of that sorted, must have been colossal. It's a real big logistical thing, isn't it?
Yeah, hugely. Yeah, absolutely. It was, it was flooding on a huge scale, and it really was a colossal task to get it done. I think it took us like a year. And not everything was resolved. There was still obviously a lot of claims that hadn't been resolved.
Yeah.
The majority of them had been resolved after a year. But if you think about that, that's a year of living in the caravan in your driveway, waiting for your house to be fixed up. And there was a lot of very, very understandably frustrated people. And as the insurance guy on the other end of the phone, we got we took the brunt of that quite a lot.
Yeah, you would
but it was very understandable. I mean, I'd put yourself in their position, it would be frustrating. But yeah, it was a very, very stressful but very rewarding career. It was.
Yeah. Was you in the insurance business 2005 or 7, roughly around there?
Yeah.
Did you have to deal with the floods in Worcestershire?
We, as I say, there was a few.
That was very
floods.
Similar for us.
Yeah, absolutely. There was those the Hull ones, the ones at Boscastle down in Cornwall. Very similar, but a smaller scale to the Hull and Worcester, etc. But that's exactly when I was working in insurance.
Yeah, because when you was explaining about the caravans, I remember being a plumbing and heating engineer. I used to get phone calls to go and connect up the gas.
Okay, yeah.
So it was all legit, and I remember all the lines of that locally to where we lived or the lines of the caravans in people's front gardens.
Yeah.
Well, like the stat, like what you get in Pontins, those sort of caravans.
Yeah. Yeah,
There was like
absolutely.
like a Pontins in the town. It was
Yeah.
really weird, and the properties I had to go in to do some work here and there. I didn't do too much because I had enough to do myself, but there was just such a shortfall of people to do anything.
Yeah.
I was getting phone calls left, right, and centre. Can you go and do this? Can you go and do that? But seeing people's properties like hacked off, is it 1 or 2 meters up from the ground,
Yeah.
all the plaster, radiators off? It was just like, wow, it's amazing what a bit of water does.
Water is so powerful. It
Mm.
really is. You don't realize just how powerful and heavy water is. So if you get a good amount of water
Oh,
uh, gushing through, it can
scary.
do a lot of damage. It really can.
Really scary. So we're in our 20s
Yeah. Well, we
and
skipped a bit. You've just reminded me about with you being a
cool.
plumbing and heating engineer. I
Yeah,
know
because I,
yeah. I know we spoke about this briefly before, haven't we? But
yes,
I did a bit of
plumbing.
plumber's mate.
You did.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad was a plumber by trade as I was
Oh,
growing
wicked.
up. Yeah, he was a
Wicked.
plumber. So from the age of 5, I'd sit next to my dad while he was on jobs, watching him soldering pipe works and,
Excellent.
and doing all that kind of thing. And one of my best friends when I was growing up, his dad had his own plumbing company. My dad worked for the council. He was a council plumber.
Yeah,
But my friend,
good job.
my friend's dad, he had his own business and he used to employ me on a part-time basis
Yeah.
and he used to pay me in copper pipes. So
Yes, I remember you saying, yeah.
yeah, the copper pipes were ripped out of the houses. I got to keep them and go and wave them in, and that's why ever since then I've always got a little pile of scrap copper
Yeah.
at some point. It's getting quite big actually. I've had to rip a load of old copper pipes out of my house I'm in now, so yeah, I've got a fairly decent amount. But instead of scrapping in, I think I'm going to go and get myself a crucible and a mold and try and make some nice pieces of copper out of it.
Oh, wicked. That'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be really cool. We'll get onto that a little bit later.
Yeah,
That's really cool. So you're in your 21s, you're working your knackers off by the looks of it. There's a lot of issues going on, which means there's a lot of claims going on with the dodgy weather that we're having. So you
yeah.
kept very busy. Did you have to put your social life to one side, or did you try and escape
Yeah.
a little bit here and there?
At that period of time, yes, it did. It had a massive knock on my social life, but I was earning very good money,
Yeah,
so I still got to go out and do great things every time I had. I was
yeah,
always driving out to theme parks or going on weekend breaks. Or
yeah.
at one point, I actually I won Employee of the Month for one of the companies I worked at when I was working in insurance, and they paid for me and my partner at the time, my girlfriend, to stay at the Mayfair Suite in the Park Lane Hilton in London.
No, really?
Yeah, they paid for everything. Literally everything was
Jesus.
paid for. The food, the mini bar, everything was paid for. And I can remember going back to work a few weeks after, well, just after we went on the trip, and I was sat outside, and there was a girl out there from the account department, and unbeknown to her, she was slagging me off. Yeah, because she was saying how this person had took the Mickey at the hotel and done all this, and I turned around and said, "Do you do realise that I won that, and
Yeah,
I was told that literally everything was paid for by the
yeah,
company, and
yeah.
that was quite embarrassing for her at
I'm
the
sure it was. Yeah.
time." Absolutely, but that was a great experience as well.
Excellent. Now, I picked up what you said earlier. You managed to get around to different parts of the world.
Yes.
Is this pre this what we're talking about, or is this
It's kind of the same time, yeah. Before,
okay?
during that, and a little bit after.
Okay,
I was very lucky because my grandparents owned a villa in the south of France, as
cool.
well as a penthouse apartment in Tenerife.
Oh wow,
Yeah, they my grandmother sold the villa after we lost my grandfather.
yeah,
Unfortunately, it was too much for her to take on by herself.
sure, yeah,
So she sold that and then moved permanently into the penthouse in Tenerife.
nice.
But that was very handy having that family connection to go and go across. So I try and have one different holiday a year, and then a couple of, I'd go and see my grandma for a couple of weeks twice a
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
and spend some time over there. I've got family. My grandma's still in Tenerife, and I've got an uncle in the south of France who's got 3 boats. He lives on his boats, and I need to get the time to go out and see him. I really do.
Wow.
Yeah, he's constantly saying, you're welcome whenever you want. You need to come out. He's got, I think, what I know for a fact, one of his boats is a Dutch barge. One of them is a converted fishing trawler.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm not sure of the third one. I think it's a narrow, like a narrowboat kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's I really do need to get myself out there to go and see him, not just for the holiday, but I miss him. It's been a few years since I've seen him, and he's a great guy. One of my favourite uncles, so I do need to go out and see him there.
Oh, nice one. It's nice when you've got a bit of family spread around and you all get on a little bit, because it just allows you to just be free and break away from the normal shit every day, And
yeah, absolutely.
That's really cool. So, but also you mentioned about scuba diving. Is this pre this era, or did the scuba diving come in a little bit later? And we'll catch up to that whenever. So
that was 2009. And I was still working in insurance.
Okay.
I think I was working at a different company at this point. I'd gone from work. The company I first started working for, I bet you've heard of them, Home Serve Emergency Services.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I worked for Home Serve Property Repairs. And they then, Home Serve Property Repairs, then created Home Serve Emergency Services. As you all know, they do boiler repairs, that kind of thing. And they were our in-house contractors, because they were the same company. So if we ever could, we'd appoint them to do the works, because obviously it was in our best interest to do that. Home Serve Property Repairs, unfortunately, I don't like to put people down, but it got a bad managing director in towards the end of me working there, and it was a case where I turned around to the friends I had at the company. I said, I'm leaving, and I don't see this company being in existence in another 6 months' time.
Right.
And within 6 months, it had liquidated.
Good call.
Yeah, it was a good call, and so at that point, I left Home Serve and worked for a company called Crawford's Loss Adjusters, who were one of the biggest loss adjusters in the world. They've got offices all over the world, and that was good. It was exactly the same kind of job. It was just a different company managing the claims on behalf of insurance companies. But it was 2009. But I went to Hawaii. It was I actually went to. It was a month. I went away.
You went to Hawaii?
Yeah,
Stat collector.
Yep.
Well, what? We're 45 minutes into this, and I am so jealous.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I'm about to make it a little worse, because it wasn't just Hawaii. We went for a week in Los Angeles. I went, which was cool. I got to go and do the VIP tour at the Universal Studios. That was amazing. You saw the normal tour, which was like these 3 tour buses crammed full of people. Just driving around. There's one guy in front with a microphone and speakers so everyone can hear. The VIP tour is just one of the carts, half full, and there's the tour guide just interacting with every single person. I actually I was able to get them to stop the cart. Do you know the big sign from Jaws? The Amityville sign. That's actually the film. And well, they had the original one, and they had do you remember the graffitied version? I think
with the shark fin.
Yes, absolutely. And we've drawn a mustache or something on the person. Yeah. And George was always my favorite film as a kid. As we drove back, I shouted, "Stop!" And we literally stopped the tour. And I was allowed to get out, run over to the sign, stand in front of it, have photos taken with me. We got to go into the prop house. I was playing with all these different props from all these different films. I had photos with me in the Dodge Charger from Fast and Furious, the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and also the Spider from Fast and Furious 2. So that was an incredible experience. But then we went to we did that for a week. And then we went to Maui in Hawaii for 2 weeks, which was the main part of the holiday. And
Yeah.
then we did a week in San Francisco on the way back, just because we didn't want to fly all the way,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
to Hawaii in one flight. It was bad enough on the flight to Los Angeles. The first thing I did when I got there was upgrade my seating because I'm quite a tall chap. I'm six
Yeah.
foot two,
Yeah.
and I felt like a sardine all the way to Los Angeles. I really did.
Oh man. So was the Hawaii trip when you got into scuba diving?
Yeah, unfortunately, it took a lot of the trip up, but I actually, it was nothing to do with scuba diving when I got there. I studied the course and did the exam whilst I was in Hawaii, and passed and became a qualified PADI scuba diver during the holiday.
No way.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a bit of a busman's holiday, but it was a lot of fun as well.
Bloody hell, I haven't lived.
I'm sure you have, buddy.
I haven't lived at all. That sounds brilliant. What an experience. And have you managed to keep the scuba diving thing going or
Unfortunately, over the last years, no.
no?
No, I would now have to do a refresher course before I could
Okay.
get back in the water. It's been so long. I think if you don't dive in 6 months, you have to do a refresher.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm still qualified, but I would have to do a very short refresher,
Yeah.
a day course, and then
Sure.
I'll be able to get back in there.
So do they keep like a register for scuba diving then?
Yes,
So you have to have a card or a certificate that's
yeah,
current. And,
yeah.
okay.
You get two. Well, I've still got my card. You get a plastic credit card style card.
Yeah.
You also get a dive planner. And because with scuba diving, you can only do so much scuba diving in a certain period of time, where you start getting things like the bends and
Yes.
altitude sickness and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you can only spend so much time in the water, and then you have to have breaks before you go back into the water. And depending on the altitude of the water that you're diving in, that affects that. So you have this little card, and you can work out based on the altitude and the length of the dive how much of a rest period you need before you can go back in the water.
Wow. What's the greatest thing you saw when you're scuba diving?
White tip reef shark.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I also saw giant turtles, and when we were on the boat going out to one of the dive sites, it was so cool. It looked like something out of a film. But we had a pod of dolphins swimming at the front of the boat.
The bow,
yeah, the bow. Yeah, jumping out of the water and back into the water like that. And that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
Jesus. So this is the first person I've had on my podcast that's making me feel jealous and sick.
I'm sorry.
With envy. I knew this would be the case.
Well, we're going to get to the boring bit soon, mate. So.
No, not at all. But also to have someone on the podcast that's gone down and dove and with the fishes and sharks and dolphins and also has done a loop the loop. That's got to be. I don't know if anyone's going to top this.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. I will say, diving. It's weird that you reminded me this by saying what you just said, but diving is pretty much the closest you can get to actually flying like Superman, because obviously you're neutrally buoyant when you're in the water. So and that's based on you have a dive vest which you can pump air into the vest, and if you're sinking too much, you can put a little bit of air in.
All right.
And if you're floating too much, you can let a little bit of air out, so you become neutrally buoyant, and so you literally just feel free floating in the water. And
wow.
Yeah, it's a bit like being a bit of a Superman, and that it was in such a cool experience.
Wow, that's crazy. And what sort of age are we there, dude?
Well, that was 2019, so I would have been what would I have been there, about 20
in your late 20s?
Yeah, mid-20s, I think.
Mid-20s. Wow, what an experience to have in mid-20s.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I said 2019. It's 2009. That's why I'm getting mixed up. That's why the maths didn't work in my head. So it'd been 24, 25 at the time. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. What a lovely experience. And it just goes to show if you ever get any opportunities like this, then you've got to take it, haven't you?
Absolutely. I was always a little bit cheeky,
Yeah,
if opportunities ever came up like that, I didn't give other people a chance. My hand went straight up.
yeah,
It didn't matter if I'd just done it the day before. I'll take
yeah,
that extra seat if I can. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And do you think that was all born out of like from what you've said from being a youngster? You just wanted to be out there, free,
Yeah.
adventurous, bang. Yeah, obviously with the
Yeah.
cadets. Yeah, it makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense.
I've always wanted, I've always dreamed of being a kind of explorer, going to the Amazon and looking for a lost temple of the Mayans or something
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
or doing an Arctic expedition. I've always looked at people like,
yeah,
Scott and, that kind of person. I
yeah,
always thought it must have been such an amazing time to be alive with all these undiscovered places in the earth. Like you got to
yeah,
go and be the first person to be
yeah.
there.
Mate, do you know, we was talking before we started recording it. This is what I love about what I'm doing with people now, because obviously I get to watch your Snapchat quite religiously on a Sunday morning,
Yeah.
well, listen to it as well. And quite often, I obviously listening to you or your guests, but when you start talking about all your adventurous stuff, I always sort of think, where does that come from? So this is brilliant because now I'm beginning to understand you as a person, and
Yeah.
it now makes listening to that content even more satisfyingly, interestingly, and intriguing to really understand the concept of where you're coming from personally, and it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
No,
Thank you
thank
so
you,
much.
buddy.
I really appreciate it. So, what I haven't asked you at any point of your, because I've been so engrossed in what you've been doing, is obviously we'll come to your unbelievable hobby of collecting silver, and I'll let you talk about that whenever. Has that been a part of any of this journey up to now for you, or did this come along at a bit more of a later date in your life?
No, the silver stacking is a recent affair, really.
Okay.
The coin collecting, I collected coins from an early age. Have mentioned this on my channel. I can actually, it's just behind me if you want to see it. But
Yeah, go.
yeah,
Yes.
just one second. Okay, so this right here was my dad's tin, and it was a tin, as you can see, of all different types of old coins. And when I
Wow.
was a really young kid,
Yeah.
like 5, 6 years old, he'd let me have this tin, and I'd just go through it all and
Yeah.
just have a quick look at it and look at everything. I've got 1966 World Cup token right there.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I used to, and this is probably what caused my adventurous nature, because I used to go through this and just imagine it was treasure.
Treasure. Yeah.
Yeah, like Indiana Jones had
Yeah.
found or something like that. And that's what got me interested in old coins.
Yeah.
So I've always picked up old coins when I could see them at a good price. So, and what I tend to try to do was buy them in bulk lots, and then I'd sort through them myself. You know what I mean? And that way
Yeah.
you can get them at a much lower price than if you try and buy individual coins.
Yeah.
It is a it is a bit of a lucky draw as to what you get with it, of course.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so throughout my life, I bought all these old coins, just basically save them. Didn't do a lot with them at first, and then I think around 2016 I started to get into the 50p's,
Okay.
and that was just because of finding them in my change.
Yeah.
And the 2016 Peter Rabbit, I can remember like that being, there was so much buzz about it, and it was, people paying all this money for it, at that point I just thought, well, you know what, if I find one, I'm gonna keep it. My first collection I got rid of. I kind of, I stopped doing it a little bit. I didn't really know the details of the coins that much. I was just collecting when I found them. They're a very passive collector. So I my first ever collection of 50p's, I ended up spending them at the shops. You know,
Yeah, as we do.
yeah, quite famously spent a Kew Gardens, and I remember the day I got that. I was we'll probably get to this in a little bit, but at one point in my life, I sold stuff on a market stall. And I love that because you've got so much change. You got
Yeah,
loads and loads of 50p's and commemorative £2. But I remember looking down at this coin and just thinking to myself, isn't that a funny looking lighthouse? And yeah, promptly
yeah,
went and spent it. But
yeah,
it turns out it wasn't a lighthouse, it was a
yeah,
pergola at Kew Gardens. So
yeah.
that's £150 worth of coin now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but going back to what you say asking before, yeah. So a few years ago, I started getting a lot more into the 50p's. I realized I had quite a few of them. And I thought to myself, you know what, I want all of them. And at the start, it was just for circulating ones. I didn't really even know about the non-circulating coins at the time. You know, this was just through getting them in my chains, etc. But I wanted all the ones that were in the chains. So that's what I first did. And I actually only completed that about a year ago because of Kew Gardens, which I
Yeah,
I actually had before, so it was my own fault. But yeah, a couple of years ago, I really started to get into coins. I was watching, I was just watching YouTube channels, and
yeah,
I was watching things about, you know, and this, let me say, this wasn't anything to do with bullying. It was all this kind of stuff here, you
yeah,
know, sterling silver stuff, and it
yeah,
was, you know, it was kind of things that you could find at a car boot, and you know, people didn't know what we were selling, and you could pick it up for next to nothing. And I was trying to pick bits like that up, and then I started watching some of the stacking channels,
yeah,
and I thought, silver and coins together, yeah, I'll have some of that.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
it just married two loves I had, really. And yeah, I can remember a good while ago now when I learned that the old coins, you know, the pre-decimal ones contained
sure.
actual silver.
Yeah, yeah.
Diving into my collection.
As
Whereas
it,
all,
yeah.
yeah,
Where are they?
yeah, which let me add is what actually made me eventually sort through all the coins and get them
Yeah.
into date order, because I wanted to find all the silver ones out of it, and I found quite a few. I had quite a bit of silver that I didn't even know I had at the time, so that was really cool.
Yeah, really cool, really cool. We'll get more into the what you're doing sort of in the or over the next or probably over the past 2016 you said you sort of started to get a bit serious about it, didn't you?
um
For
yeah,
your 50p's?
around that, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't, same as say, at that point I wasn't really serious. I was just trying to get all
Okay.
the 50p's that were in the
Okay.
change.
Okay.
It wasn't,
So that
I
was a
would,
sort of a bit more of a start into it.
that, yeah, that was kind of
2016.
the next level.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd got serious into collecting coins probably about around 2020. It was probably came from the lockdowns and
Yeah,
not having a
sure.
lot to do, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's when I consider getting serious. And obviously when I say getting serious, I mean trying to get literally every single commemorative coin that's been
Yeah.
issued, and really, you know, learning about who these people were at first on the
Yeah.
backs of these coins. You know, I didn't know Edward VII from George VI at
Yeah.
the time. You know, so I started learning about all these different monarchs and who they were, and
Hmm.
who designed the portraits of them, and
Sure.
yeah, it became very interesting to me.
So to get so to slightly get a better picture, would you say as a rule, obviously from your dad's box,
Yeah.
from an early age, you've always had that interest around coins, but
Yes.
just as well, they're coins.
Yeah.
And um, would you say that at any point was you actually interested in the value of them, or just the history of them,
I was
or
interested. Yeah, I was interested in the value, but I didn't know enough to
yeah,
know which ones held the value. So
yeah, yeah,
they stayed as just
yeah,
tubs of mixed coins for
yeah,
so long, and yeah, it was when I started to really, understand better,
yeah.
and know what to look for. That's when
Mhm.
I started going through them, and I've still not finished sorting all my coins. I've done all of them except my half pennies, and I've got to go through my tub of half pennies,
Yeah,
and get them into date order and get them all catalogued by
yeah.
by year kind of thing. But other than that, every single one of the coins I own is has been sorted through and in little bags with the
Yeah,
year written on them and the denomination. And
yeah.
yeah, it's been a
So,
lot of
so
fun.
obviously, coin collecting has been a part of your life for, well, a lot of your life by the sounds of it.
Yeah, yeah, maybe not a massively important part of
No,
my life, but definitely
been
it's
around you,
been,
yeah.
yeah, it's been there. Sometimes in the background, but it's always been there.
Yeah. And did you, because we'll get into more of this in a minute, in a little while, because well, you blow my mind with your knowledge. So has that knowledge built around the same time with the interest,
Yeah.
or was you did you sort of when you had 5 minutes or 10 minutes just thought, oh, great, was you this type of guy that obviously you like the history, you like a bit of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
stories of history. So when you was looking at your coins, did that sort of make you want to read up on certain periods of times around those sort of things? Where did that knowledge build up from? At what part in your life, or has it always been it?
I think
Sorry.
that's no. It's fine. I'm laughing because it kind of came because I got older, and
Yeah,
it's so often the case, isn't it?
yeah,
You get to a certain age, you stop going clubbing, you stop doing all these things
yeah,
that you did to spend your time when you were younger,
yeah.
and you look for different things to occupy your time. I got into model making.
Did you?
Yeah, have you ever seen the house I made? I've had it on the channel every now and again. Have you seen that yet?
I might have done, but I haven't. No, I'd love to see it again though.
Give me a second. I'll go and fetch that because
Okay,
that's
mate.
that's pretty much my shining achievement with the
I
model
think it's
making.
beginning to ring a bell now.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'd love to show it again. So one
yeah,
second.
please. Yeah, yeah, I can remember it now. I think I can remember it. What a creative guy! Wow, amazing. This is brilliant. I'm like a little kid. Love it. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And that box, yeah, I'm sure that was a generic box from that day because that box looks familiar to me. It really does. The pattern on the top, um, that looks like a box that maybe my parents had or someone did in my family. Very interesting. Just talking
Hey,
about
buddy.
your box.
Oh, sorry, mate. I've just put my headphones back on.
No, I was just talking. I was just being a little kid really while you was off. I was just talking
No,
about
don't.
your box because that box looks. I don't know why, mate, but I don't know whether my parents had a box like that, a money box like that, because it looks so that red and gold pattern.
Yeah, yeah. There's been a couple of people actually. I showed it on because my dad gave me that on my 40th birthday.
Yeah,
And there's been a couple of people that actually had the same
recognize
one.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a toffee tin, and you got a little toffee hammer in it.
Ah,
And
right.
obviously, when you ate all the toffee, it became a money box because you got the
Yeah,
slit in the lock on
yeah.
it. So yeah, no, there's a very good chance you may have seen one of those young when you was younger,
Wow.
buddy.
God,
Uh,
bringing back
yeah,
memories, dude.
absolutely. So this is probably the
That's
best one.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. This is
that's amazing.
and I
Oh,
just
look at that.
I built up. I made this myself one day. I actually invented the method to make the doppel effect on the wall there, and
Really?
yeah, no, I'd never seen anyone do that before. And what I did is you can see at the bottom, I got a load of kebab skewers, the bamboo kebab
Yeah, yeah,
skewers,
yeah.
pushed them all through, and then it's jute
Oh
twine.
God, yeah, I can see what you've done.
Yeah, and then so I say weave the jute twine through it, and then they're coffee stirrers. Those
No,
support beams. Most of it's made out of foam. You've got coffee stirrers again there. They're candle holders for a birthday cake.
no way.
Yeah, and I made that out of coffee stirrers again. And yeah, all the little bricks are just cut up pieces of foam. It's all been hardened now.
Wow.
But yeah, that's one of the models I made. I also used to paint miniatures, so I can get to focus. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, these I've all hand painted all of these because people may know I'm a big fan of Dungeons and
Dungeons and
Dragons.
Dragons. Yeah, I've heard you talk
Hence,
about it a
yeah,
lot.
hence the 2 ounce
Yeah,
piece there.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and then I've got a dragon here as well because
Wow.
I also love my dragons, as I'm sure a lot of people know as well. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I got into model making. I got really into model making. It's something I really do want to get back into, but I've got to, I've got to sort my house out and get all that sorted before
I'd like
I
to
do
know where
that.
you get all
Really,
the time to do all this.
I don't. That's why I haven't done it in ages, buddy. Unfortunately, I wish I did. I wish I did, but yeah, it would be cool to get to start doing that kind of stuff again.
The other excellent thing is that you've kept it all.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That
Uh,
is just, it's amazing because, like, as you know, I'm older than you, but all the time you're displaying all this stuff. I love this because it's making me think of my childhood.
well,
And it's just thinking, oh my God, I remember stuff like that. And
yeah,
some of my mates had it, and some of my mates were into those sort of things.
yeah.
And I just think, oh my God, why didn't I keep some of the stuff, you know?
I know the feeling. When I was really really small, I was really into Warhammer.
All right.
And my dad used to get us all the little miniature models, and we
Yep.
used to hand paint them. And mine was so bad. I was so young, so there was no detail to it whatsoever. They looked awful, but I wish I still had them because I had all the White Dwarf magazines. I had, the models I had back then are worth thousands and thousands of pounds
Yeah,
now.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
still big now, isn't it?
it's still very very big, and unfortunately, all of my all of my old toys were given away to my cousins,
Right.
who love to wind me up and let me know that they're still in their attic these days.
I'm sure.
That's great, isn't it? You know what I mean? But
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure. Yeah, thank you.
unfortunately, that's the joys of having younger cousins and pass me downs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's
100%.
amazing. So, oh my God, I could talk to you forever on this. Because there's something else I want to ask you about, and to find out where that come into to your journey. So, as a recap, before I forget where I am, um, so the coins, the collecting, the knowledge, the reading, the very diversified fantasy stuff, and the creative stuff has been a part. It seems like that's been a part of your life for a long, long time.
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah.
that
I was always quite creative. I did.
freedom? Yeah,
Yeah, I did art in my GCSEs,
yeah,
and yeah, I loved creating, building things, taking things apart, putting them back together. I
yeah.
could spend hours in my dad's garage just taking
Oh, I'm
apart.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. One thing I was going to ask you during this conversation was I've heard you mention about you really liked, and it makes sense now. You often mention about you used to go off for weekends sometimes on your own,
yes,
out on a hammock,
yeah.
out on that sort of almost escapism, beautiful out in nature. Has that always been a part of your life? I guess you're going to say yes.
Yeah, I used to absolutely love camping and any excuse to get away. It was Friday nights, and this was around 2017, 2018.
Okay.
I used to go every single Friday night. I used to go up to a place called Stanton Moor
Okay.
in Derbyshire, and
Wow.
I used to. I had my own little spot which I built up over time. At the end, it looked like some kind of medieval camp at the end with all these.
Do you know what? That would not surprise me.
Yeah, absolutely. But that came about because one Friday night I was sat at home. I was watching a film, and I looked down at my tablet. I had an old Android tablet, and the thought just popped into my head that I could be doing the exact same thing as I'm doing right now in the woods under the stars, watch my tablet.
Yeah.
And that was the first night. That night, I put all my stuff together. I went to the shop on the way, got some drink in, and this is back when I used to drink.
Yeah.
I'd sit there next to the campfire, watching a film on my tablet, building the camp, and just enjoying the evening.
Yeah.
Basically, it was a lot of fun, but there's a few weird things that happened to me while I was up there,
Go
and
on.
yeah,
I like weird things.
I mean, not everyone believes in this kind of stuff. I'm not sure how much I believe in this kind of stuff, but I know
Yeah.
weird stuff definitely happened up there.
Yeah.
There was one occasion where I was sat next to the campfire, and it was on a little bit of a raised area, so it was a little bit of a drop off just past my camp, and I could hear somebody walking up to my camp in the, I could hear the footsteps rustling in the dried leaves on the floor.
Yeah.
And, it's hikers and dog walkers up there. So
Sure.
I thought nothing of it. And they just kept walking round. And I'm thinking, what is this person doing?
Yeah.
And I got up, went to the edge, and looked down. And although I could still hear the footsteps, there was nobody there. Literally nobody there. So I can't explain that.
No.
There was another time where I was sat next to a campfire and a little pile of rocks behind me just moved on their own. And I've always been the kind of guy where could have been a rat or something knocking them. It could have been something like that. The cherry on the cake for me, and the last time I ever went to that particular spot on my own, was when I had sleep paralysis in the middle of the woods, completely on my own. And if anyone doesn't know what sleep paralysis is, it's pretty much the exact opposite of sleepwalking, because you wake up and you can't move. So instead of being asleep and walking, you're in your bed and you become aware of what you open your eyes and become aware of what's going on around you, but you're paralyzed.
Really?
Yeah, you can't move your arms and your legs because your brain provides a hormone which basically stops you from being able to move while you're sleeping.
Okay.
And that's what stops people sleepwalking. People who sleepwalk have a deficiency of this hormone, and that's enables them to walk around and act out their sleeps, their dreams. Sorry. So it's a very common. Well, it doesn't happen to everyone, but there's a lot of occurrences of people suffering from sleep paralysis. The really weird thing about it is, and this is something that happened to me, is very often whilst sleep paralysis is happening, people see a dark silhouette figure, and very, very often they have a wide brim hat. And I think they call him the Hat Man or something like that.
Yeah.
And that happened to me. I was lying in my hammock, and I woke up because I felt something on my leg. The hammock was swinging very slightly, and I felt myself like swinging into something, and I woke up and I could just about make out this dark silhouette figure in the background, and I couldn't move. All I wanted to do was scream for help and try and get up, and the next thing I knew, I was waking up again in the morning. And it probably is completely based in science. It probably is just some sort of dream state, and that's probably what leads to this seeing this figure. But when it happens to you out in the middle of the woods, it is pretty terrifying. And
Slightly.
I one time after that, I got my stuff together and I drove up to my spot, and I parked my car up, and something weird happened this night as well, because I was parked on a road next to a tree, and I saw these two things coming down the road in tandem, side by side, just coming down the road, and they were hares. And these hares were the size of a medium-sized dog. They were huge, huge things. Yeah, they just walked down the street, looked at me, went off, and I was like, no, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I'm driving home. I'm going back to my bed. Yeah. So that's why I stopped going out and doing the camping on a Friday night. But again, I'm not. I don't know what was happening out there. All I know, it was weird, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, but he experienced it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Experience.
It was an experience, not a great one, but
no,
definitely an experience.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I used to, because my problem is when I was a kid, I was fully caught up and tied into like ghosts and the paranormal. And I believed it all. I really did.
Sure.
I'm a lot more skeptical nowadays. But I definitely had that belief when I was younger, and that was just enough just to make me think, you know what, I'm okay.
Yeah, it's weird though, isn't it? It's just weird. That the interesting thing is it's definitely had a prolific experience on your life, because you remember it and you cleared it, and it's definitely sounds very sincere, and it was definitely an experience that you experienced. So who knows, mate?
I like to stay open these days,
Yep.
You know, one thing that I definitely know for a fact is that we don't know everything.
Absolutely.
You know, there's so many mysteries of science and the universe out there yet to be discovered, and so many, you know, who's to say there isn't a different form of life that's around us
Yeah.
all the time? You know,
Yeah.
people talk about extra dimensional beings, and
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people laugh that kind of stuff off, but you know, the universe is a weird place.
It is.
Is all I'm going to say. You know.
Mm. That sounds like you're a free spirit to me, which is
Yeah,
probably why I've got that. I don't know that affiliation to you. It's strange. You meet people in life, and you don't necessarily marry them, or or really get on board with their ideas, but they just feel right.
yeah, I know
Does
what
that
you
make
mean.
sense?
Yeah, 100%. You know, you'll meet somebody and within
Yeah,
10 minutes feel like your best mate.
yeah.
You know, you just gel. I know exactly what you mean, buddy.
This feels right.
Yeah.
And how do you explain that away?
I don't
How
know.
do you explain that?
Exactly. You know, people talk about past lives and you know,
Yeah,
people having relationships from a past life or something like that. But
yeah.
you just don't know, do you? Is my
No,
honest answer.
mate. I think we can have a good stack chat one day.
I think we need to have another good chat, stack chat, my friend, and we can do your life story.
Ah, mate. Yeah, yeah. It's weird.
Yeah.
I can tell you some weird stuff there. Um, cool. So let's get back on track. I'll do this for that.
Yeah.
Then. I'll do it. But
Yeah.
it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So we've got into our oh crikey, you left the insurance business. You went to work for a loss adjuster, I think you said.
Yeah, that was still in the insurance business. A loss
Okay.
adjuster, yeah, loss adjusters are a company that insurance companies employ to deal with claims on their behalf.
Okay.
They're specialised in validating and paying out claims. They don't use pay out with their own money. They tell the insurance company how much they owe to people.
Sure.
And yeah. So that's what I did for a period of time. When I left that, just trying to remember back now which job
Sorry.
came. No, it's fine. You know, you kind of lose track of which job came first. But when I left the loss adjusters,
Yeah.
I went to work for Eon. That's when I worked for Eon. Yeah.
Ah, yes, I've heard you talk about that.
Yeah, and when I came out of insurance, probably because of insurance, it's a very good. It leads up to this very well. I started working in complaints
Okay.
because
Yeah.
insurance company dealing with insurance claims is basically just dealing with complaints. Nobody's ever entirely happy with the payout. The
No,
insurance company is always trying to pay as little money as possible, and
of
the
course.
policyholder is always trying to get as much money as possible, and the loss adjusters there in the middle, you know,
Yeah.
just getting a big headache. So I left that and I worked for Eon. I didn't start off in their complaints department. I started because they've got their own kind of internal progression scheme, or did have at the time. The building I worked at is now closed down. It used to be Eon's head office in the UK. It's still in the same city, but we've closed that building and moved it into the city centre. And I started off working in the meter reading department, where
Okay.
all you do is ring up the company, ring up the people, and say we need a meter reading,
Yeah.
or it's been so long that we need to send a meter reader out to property because there's a
Yeah.
duty of care that
Yeah.
the insurance company has to see your meter once every 2 years,
Yeah.
and that's to make sure that it's working and it's
Yeah.
not a health hazard.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen
It's not round the wrong way.
well, that as well. That as well.
Yeah.
There was a lot of counter fraud. I actually dealt with quite a bit of counter
I
fraud.
bet you did. Yeah.
Yeah, meter tampering. I can tell you all the different ways to tamper with your
Yeah.
meter. I'm not going to.
No.
But, yeah, so I moved up the company very quickly. I went from the meter reading department to the billing department to the disconnections department, where I kind of I ran a part of that team, which was when compulsory buyouts and things like that, where there was a large number of disconnections that had to be happening at the same time. So a council would buy a certain area of housing because they're getting knocked down and they're having something built up there, compulsory
Sure.
purchases,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And then I moved from the disconnections team to the complaints team, and I became a complaints resolution manager. And that was all about just trying to resolve issues people had, normally billing related, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah. Stressful.
Yeah. A lot of my working life was very stressful,
Yeah.
which we'll come to where what I do now is
Yeah.
that's the main reason.
I was just about going to ask you actually, because the crux of your story so far is based around the stat collector likes to be free.
Yeah.
So all the time you was talking about the corporate world
Yeah.
and the jobs you've been doing, I've been sitting there thinking, man, have you dealt with that okay? Because it sounds like you've never had that freedom in those sort of
Yeah.
environments.
Yeah. It wasn't for me.
No,
I came to realize, far too long down the
yeah,
road that,
yeah,
the shirt and tie suit jobs just weren't what I was after in life.
sure.
I was always sat there at work, and my attention would be pulled towards the window on a
Yeah,
nice day, and I'd
I'm
look
with you.
outside, and
Yeah,
I'm trapped in this office, this stuffy office, surrounded by people, getting moaned at all day long on the telephone. And it's it was a few jobs down the line after I worked at Eon. And funny enough, I moved from Crawford's to Eon, and they were literally the other side of the road to each other. So
oh, really?
when people used to ask me, where did you used to work? I'd point out the window and say, there.
Over there.
Yeah, just there. But I left Eon, and when I left Eon, I think that's when I worked for the hospital. And
Oh my God, yeah, I forgot you mentioned this every now and then.
I worked at the local hospital. I started off just as a porter. I came out of Eon. It didn't go well at Eon.
Yeah, yeah,
I just had to. I had to leave that business, and
yeah,
I took a bit of a stopgap job.
yeah.
And it's because somebody who used to work under me at HomeServe was at that point in time one of the was the senior manager for the outsource company that the NHS were using for things like portering, catering, and that kind of thing. Anything that was non-medical staff, the NHS was no longer employing people directly. It was being employed through this company called Medicare slash Resource Network. Resource
Okay.
Network was a
Yeah,
part of Medicare, or Medicare was a part of Resource Network,
yeah,
one way or
yeah,
the other.
yeah.
And someone that I worked with at HomeServe was actually the manager there, and I basically just put a post on Facebook saying I'm looking for work if anyone knows where there is any, and they came back to me saying, in fact, it was another friend who worked at the hospital who said we're looking for people at the hospital where I'm working, and I responded to his comment to say, oh, that's cool, how do I apply? And then the person who was the manager chirped in, and they say, well, I'm the manager there, you apply through me, and made it a lot easier. Bit of nepotism there.
Yeah.
So she got me into the company, and then when I was there for the induction day, the guy who was the supervisor who was running the induction day is a guy I used to go drinking with.
No,
Yeah, yeah. I was
can't
pretty well. Yeah, I
can't
was.
write it.
Yeah, no, but I was pretty well looked after at hospital
Yeah,
because of
yeah,
that. Friends in high places, as it were.
yeah,
But I started off as a porter, which I loved. I actually loved that. It was walking around the hospital all day,
yeah.
taking things, either taking patients to and from wards, taking medical
Sure.
equipment to and from wards. I developed two nicknames. One was Zebedee, and Zebedee being from Magic Roundabout, the one
Roundabout. Yeah.
who's always bouncing
Bouncing around.
around. Yeah,
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 yeah.
absolutely. And unfortunately, my other nickname was Doctor Death, and I got
Oh,
that nick.
what?
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
excuse my language. As soon as you said that, I was back to your campsite.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the reason I got that nickname was in my first week or so working at the hospital, I was doing a patient transfer from the emergency assessment unit to the ward, and it's not a great story, but basically what happened is I went to pick this patient up. The patient was on oxygen, and there was a rule in the hospital that any patient that was on oxygen had to be escorted by a member of medical staff.
Yeah.
So I went to pick up this patient. I asked for my escort. The nurse came and took the patient off oxygen to enable me to take him. Now, I wasn't medical staff. I wasn't medically trained.
Yeah.
I obviously assumed that it was fine. He didn't need to be on oxygen. I was transferring him up to the ward. I had his daughter, adult daughter, walking with us. She was in the hospital. She actually worked at the hospital, but she wasn't working at the time, and she was visiting her father. And we were stood outside waiting for an elevator. And she turned around and said, "You all right, Dad?" And he didn't respond. And the second he didn't respond, I knew what had happened. I knew what had happened. She started getting a bit more panicky, started shaking him, and Dad, you all right? And he'd gone. So that caused quite a big upset. I wasn't blamed. It was never towards me that blame was put, because I was a porter. I did my job the way I was supposed to do my job. It was the nurse that took this guy off oxygen to enable him to be transferred. I think I'm not sure what happened to her, but I know she left. But I think it was a case of she left because it was how severe it was. And I unfortunately had a couple of patients die whilst I was transferring them, and that's where I got the nickname Dr. Death. But one thing I would say,
sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
No, I understand, mate. No, one thing I would say is there was more of a chance of it happening to me because I used to take over jobs, which is why I got the name Zebedee.
Yeah.
Because we had a portering room which had a settee and a few armchairs in there, and most of the other porters just wanted to stay in that room all day. And I couldn't stand it. It made the day drag so much. But if I was out in the hospital doing stuff, moving around and doing things, the day went so much quicker. So I'd constantly be saying, "Yeah, I'll take that job. Yeah, I'll take that job." And it worked really well because the other porters just wanted to sit there and chat all day, and I wanted to be busy and make the day go by. So, I generally tend to take most of the work, which is one of the reasons why it happened to me more than other people. When I used to do night shifts, I didn't understand with the guy I used to work with, like he used to go to sleep and I'd stay up and do all the jobs because if it was it was quite quiet. There was one person could stay on top of all the jobs. So we had an understanding that he could sleep and I'd do all the jobs. It was quite funny on occasion because if I was ever too noisy doing my job, he'd get really grumpy. I'd just have to remind him, am I sorry? Have I just woke you up whilst you're at work? Have I? Do you want to do the next job? Do you? No? Okay. Well,
Terrible.
But I moved on after doing reporting for a bit. I was able, because I have all my experience working in the offices, etc. I then basically ran the hospital because I worked on the help desk and I managed all the different jobs that needed to be done. And I had to prioritize them and decide which one needed to be done. So basically, if somebody asked for a patient transfer from reception to a ward, and then just after that, somebody asked for an emergency piece of kit to be sent down to a resus department, that gets done first. Person sat in the reception can wait a little bit. I used to have I had a few massive arguments with very high up members of medical staff because they try and force me to put patients into a room that I couldn't have patients in. We had a traffic light system, red, green, and yellow. If they had a certain if there was certain things wrong with one, they'd be a green patient, which meant you could literally go in, give the room a wipe down with antiseptic wipes, and it's good to go. An amber needed a bit more of a heavy clean, and a red needed a deep clean, which meant you had to put this fogging machine in the room, and you had to leave it there for 12 hours for it to decontaminate the room. And I had medical staff, matrons, etc., try and make me put patients straight into those kind of rooms, and there was a few times where it'd get quite threatening. But I knew at the end of the day I was in the right and they were in the wrong, and it wasn't going to go any further. That was so much fun. That was it's more interesting than fun, obviously. A lot of bad things happen, but it was very very interesting. I did actually quite enjoy my part of that, and that was really good. But that was unfortunately that ended for quite a strange reason, because we had a new girl start on the help desk around the same time as me, because you'd have one person who was the dispatcher, and that's what I did. I mean, you'd have about 4 other people, and they took incoming calls. So what happened is they took the call, they logged the job on the system. I mean, I sat there with this list of jobs on the system, and that's how I prioritized them. So I'd look through them, and then I'd dispatch them out in the order that they needed to be dispatched out to. So there was a girl that worked on the telephones, and she started around the same time as me. And you know what it's like when you start a new job with somebody around the same time. You're kind of buddies, aren't you? You know, you're going through the same thing, you're learning the same stuff, and you kind of, you get to know each other, and you get quite friendly. One of the guys who worked in the help desk, who was married to somebody else, a nurse who worked in the hospital, took a bit of a liking to the girl that started around the same time as me, and got very jealous of the relationship we had. And there was quite a few lies that came round about me. They unfortunately didn't know the relationship I had with the people working there. So fortunately, I got dragged to the office, and we basically turned around and said, "Stat collector, what's going off?" We didn't say stat collector, but
no, of course not.
So I had to explain to it. I said, "Look, I don't know what's going off. Like, there's nothing going off between us. We started at the same time. We're quite, we're friendly. We go on cigarette breaks together and that kind of thing. But I don't know any of this. I don't know any of what's going off." So they were going to look to change my role there. They were going to put me as a driver for the NHS, which was basically going to GPs and chemists, picking up samples, dropping supplies off, etc., which was quite a nice paid job. I was very interested in it, but at that point in time, I was able to get a job at Boots head office. And Boots, they do an intake, so you can't, they don't just take people on every now and then. They'll take a load of people on, and then a few months later, we'll take another load of people on. So it was a case of I had to start in 2 weeks or not at all. And I had a 4-week notice. And so I first of all, I went to, a friend I had of the managers, and I explained the situation. I said, "Look, I'm going to ask for a short notice period. It's only because if I don't start on this day, I've lost the intake. Can you please see what you can do?" And she said, yeah, I'll speak to this guy who actually worked for the NHS and one of the top bosses in the hospital. And we had a chat, and I had to have a chat with him about the things that were happening already, and he was the guy who was going to look to get me working in the driving, because he didn't have a problem with me. He could see that was something was going off there, and I didn't want to be involved in it. At this point, I felt I didn't want to work with these people anymore, because it just felt so uncomfortable. So I explained the situation to him. He said, he was happy. He was thankful for the time I spent with the company. I was thankful for the time I spent with the company. He said it's understandable and it's not a problem. It was quite funny because a few days later I was talking to the porters in the portering room, and one of them asked when I was leaving, and I told them, and I didn't realise one of the supervisors was skulking in the doorway, listening to what we were saying, which was something they loved doing. The supervisors there were quite toxic. I'll be honest.
I can imagine.
And he chirped up and said, "I don't think you are. I think you'll find you've got a 4 weeks notice." And I just turned around to him and said, "Oh, I think you'll find if you speak to blah, 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 he's okayed it, mate." So, and his face just dropped. He hated it.
But he did,
But, it's, I'm not going to just not do my notice. I went through the right procedures. So, that's when I left there, and I worked at Boots head office. And as much as I didn't want to, I ended up on the complaints team. As far as I was concerned, I was done with complaints. And they saw how well I could handle complaint calls, and they obviously saw I had a lot of experience in it, and they needed people on the complaints, which was it was higher paid from what I was doing. So I ended up working on their complaints team, and it was all going well until we got TP'd, to a external company. And this external company was taking in literally anybody. They were actually just getting people sent to them by the job centre. So we weren't even interviewing these people. We were just getting a group of people that the job centre decided. And it was basically people who were struggling to find jobs anywhere else. The job centre was sending them across here.
Yep.
And so the quality of the workforce dropped. We then, and I used to call him Camp Commandant because we had this new manager come in,
Yeah.
and his job was literally to just walk round and peer over our shoulders to check what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I took I took an offence to it. You know, I was one of the hardest workers there, and every time I see him walking towards where I was sat, I push my seat back a little bit and fold my arms and wait for him to pass. I think, you know, this is not how I want. You know, this is not the kind of working conditions I want to work under. You exactly. Know, it just doesn't. You know, it really feels like the Gestapo. And the problem is he had one of those kind of Gestapo style haircuts. Can you remember when Peaky Blinders first came out?
And
everyone got the high fade with the side parting. He had one of those haircuts, and he really did.
Oh no!
Yeah, so. After that was another occasion where I could just see, you know, things. It's not the company I started. It literally is not the company I started with because I now work for a different company, but I never applied to work for.
Exactly,
I applied to work for Boots directly. So I left that, and that's when I became a driver for a chimney company. Again, this was just a temporary job. This one was, and and all I do is I drive to a warehouse in the morning. I'd load up all the things because we had very specific, customers or clients that we delivered to. We weren't delivering to the public. Maybe we would because our client would request that the things we're delivering gets dropped off at their customer's house. But we didn't work directly with the customer. Their customer wasn't calling us up saying, I need a new stove and a chimney liner kit and a cowl and, all this kind of stuff. It was, it was done through the different companies, and some of them were companies, most of them were companies that were shops. So we were providing their stock to their shops. So I do not many deliveries in the day, but they could be all overnight. Sometimes I'd be driving to Norwich and back. Wow. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed being on my own and traveling and having that time to myself and thinking about it. But it was a low paid job, and as much as I enjoyed doing it, it was one of those where I needed to earn more money. Money makes the world go round, as we all know. Yeah. So I spoke to my boss there, and I left there, and that serendipitously led me on to where I am now because around about the same time, I unfortunately lost my grandfather, my other grandfather, and his estate, it was being dealt with. His house was being sold, and because it'd been left empty, his garden had got really overgrown. Yeah. So me and my dad went down, and we spent a week just basically making it look pristine again. Like my granddad used to keep, because he was a gardener himself. He used to, immaculate garden. Yeah. And it was a beautiful, beautiful summer. It was a beautiful week of weather. And I was stood outside, and I thought to myself, this is more what I want to do. I want to work outside and do something like this. And I had a friend who was a tree surgeon. And I've always been, one of my main hobbies is rock climbing. I love rock climbing. I don't do it so much now since I became a tree surgeon, because I get my climbing fix now for work. Yeah. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to look into becoming a tree surgeon, because I know it's good money. I know that because my friend works in it, and he told me the kind of money he got paid for doing it. So I knew it was good money. I knew it was physically active, which was something I kind of need myself, and it was working outdoors. So I went and got myself qualified as a tree surgeon. And nowadays, that's what I do. I'm a qualified tree surgeon, but I also do landscape gardening and garden maintenance or / grounds maintenance. So wow, it kind of leads us up to where we are now, buddy.
Yeah, isn't it fascinating though? Because just listening to that, you've gone through that early part of your life free, just craving freedom.
Yeah.
and adventure and
Yeah.
outside. And as young people, we go through those fantasy things, and it seemed to be a big build up. And then you've gone through this corporate, what I call the
Yeah.
corporate hamster wheel
Yeah. Yeah.
grind,
Very well said. Yes.
the corporate hamster wheel grind. And we just get some, and I'm really proud that you've been able to manage to have that moment through unfortunate circumstances
Yeah.
and have that moment to go, no, Stat Collector, you can be free.
Yeah. Go through
And
full circle.
yeah, and you found it.
Yeah.
And I know you're really happy doing what you're doing.
Oh yeah, no, I
Um,
love doing what I'm doing.
yeah,
It can be stressful.
of course.
It can be scary. It can be scary as hell. When you're 60, 70 feet high in a tree, dangling around with a chainsaw.
Well, you've done a loop the loop, so
I've gone grey since starting that job.
I'm sure.
I've gone grey over sides now, and I noticed I noticed that it happened because what would happen when I first started doing a job, like you'd be there and you'd be working away and be fine, and then all of a sudden a gust of wind would happen, and then it would shake you, and
Yeah,
your heart would skip a beat,
yeah,
and then I'd look in the mirror the next day and 3 more hairs had gone grey.
yeah.
That's basically
Yeah,
what
that
happened.
wake up call.
Yeah, but you get used to it after a while. It's nowadays. I've got the experience to know that I'm safe doing what doing what
Yeah,
I'm doing. If you know
yeah,
what I mean. I can remember a lot of times thinking, what if it? Because what a lot of people don't realize is what I do is actually statistically the most dangerous job on the planet. The logging industry is statistically the most dangerous job, and obviously being up the tree rather than being at ground level is even more dangerous.
yep.
So yeah, it is and can be a very, very dangerous job.
Mm,
You have to have respect for your kit. The thing you've got in your hand is it's a deadly weapon.
yeah,
A chainsaw. If you slip with that and it
yep.
touches your skin,
Well,
it's
it's not a second chance, is it?
no, and it's gone before you know it.
Gone,
It's
yeah,
that chain is rotating at something like 30 meters per second,
yeah,
which is incredibly fast. So
yeah.
it will take you probably a second, to realize what you're doing. So in that second of realization, you've had 30 meters of cutting chain go
Yeah.
through you.
Oh, don't.
Yeah, yeah. So I was terrified for long time at the beginning, but same as I say, you get to you build a healthy respect for your kit,
Yeah,
and the people that do. I mean, most common injury when it comes to chainsaws is the left hand.
yeah,
And that happens because people are one-handing their chainsaw.
yeah.
So they'll grab the branch, they'll use the chainsaw, because when you're in the tree, you've got a top-handled chainsaw, which is a very
Sure.
small, compressed version of a chainsaw.
Yeah.
So they'll grab it, they'll try and use the chainsaw one-handed, and it'll bounce and
Yeah.
touch the hand, we lose a finger on the left hand.
Okay.
I don't do that. I never one-hand a chainsaw. I've got a silky saw, which is a very popular brand of saw for arborists and tree surgeons. And if I ever have to one-hand something, I will use my silky saw. I did nearly take the top of my little finger off of my silky saw, though. I don't know if you can. Yeah, there you go. Can you see that?
Oh, yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah, that was with my silky saw. I was, and it happened just like what I said. You go to saw and it bounces
Yeah.
off the piece, and it went onto me. Luckily, I was wearing gloves. If I weren't wearing gloves, I probably would have lost the top of my finger.
Yeah.
But I was wearing gloves, and it took quite a bit out of it. But yeah, that was very deep. I've still got a lump of bone or something in there that it's kind of disfigured it a little bit, but it can be very, very dangerous, but it's also very that's it. What adventure is, though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It's yeah. If we're lucky enough to get away with these small little things and it educates us, then we've been very fortunate. Very
Yeah,
fortunate indeed.
yeah.
So, mate, that's really cool. So you've gone from freedom to the horrible
Yeah, the corporate grind. Yeah,
and now back to freedom, which is
yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
absolutely.
How now for the last bit of the podcast, how did the Stat Collector YouTube journey come about?
Future investments, blame him, people. I told you, like I said, I got into these YouTube channels about silver
Yeah.
and learning more about the coins. So a couple of the channels I used to watch very early on, Backyard Bullying, of course, and a guy over in the States, I know a lot of people know it's Silver Dragons.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to let you know a secret now. I've never told this to anyone on
Okay.
YouTube. So
This is a first.
it's an exclusive on the what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I loved watching Silver Dragons, and Silver Dragons had a red backdrop.
Okay.
And yeah, and then I clicked on, I saw this thumbnail, which was a red backdrop and this silver on there. And I clicked on it, and it wasn't Silver Dragon's voice. It was this English guy with a proper geezer kind of voice.
Yeah.
And anyone who's been watching his channel long enough will know that 365 Days of
Yeah.
Silver
I knew you was going to say that. Yeah.
started off with a red backdrop.
It
So
did.
I accidentally clicked on his video the first time and I watched it and I thought, you know what, this guy sounds like a kind of guy I could have a pint with down the pub.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I watched his entire backlog. I binge watched his entire backlog.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I got towards the end of it, future investments in 365 Days of Silver have always been quite close when it comes
Sure.
to.
Yeah. He was telling me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'd start chatting with Future just in the comments of his 365 videos. And I kind of discovered Future just as I was getting to the end of 365's videos. So I binge watched all of his videos. And then I went and binge watched all of Future's videos.
Yeah.
And I said to, because I used to do, did you know I had an old channel on YouTube before the Stat Collector?
I've heard you mention it.
Yeah, it was Urban Exploration.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
So going out and exploring adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had this little bit of experience with YouTube. I'll be honest with you, my old channel got 40 subscribers and that was it.
Yeah.
as far as it got. So, and it was very difficult. You couldn't do weekly uploads because you had to find these abandoned places. You had to spend the time and effort to get out there, film it and record it. I didn't have much decent quality equipment back then to do it. I picked up a few bits as I was doing it, which was really handy for when I started this channel up.
Yeah.
But I made an off the cuff comment to Future about, I was thinking of doing a few videos showing my collection.
Yeah.
And he told me, you know what, you should do it, mate. Go do it. I'd love to see it. And then I started filming my own videos. Wow. And that's how the Stat Collector was born.
Yeah. And how have you found that journey, mate? What's been your mindset through that probably year and a half, 2 years? I mean, I can obviously talk about you, but that's not why I want you here. Tell me about your mindset.
No, of course, of course.
Sorry to interrupt, because obviously you've got you not only built up a massive, I call it a brand, Stat Collector brand, and I love it.
Yeah,
you've not only built that up and with everyone knows you in the UK stacking community, which is fantastic.
You're gonna make me blush.
Yeah, whatever. But it's true. It's true. And obviously now you've incorporated a thing called Stacker Social. So if you can sort of take us through that mindset, a little bit of a journey of, how did you get to, what's that journey been like for you?
It's been incredible, CPM, my friend. It's so good. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
When I first started my channel, I was going through a bad time in my life.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned that before.
Yeah, I was going through a breakup, and I really wasn't doing too well. I was living on my own in a little flat, miles away from my hometown, and I moved there years before because of work. So I wasn't seeing many people. The few people I had in my life, they seemed to always want something whenever they contacted me, and I recognized that, and that made me feel really low about myself. But coming into this community and meeting all the incredible people in this community has changed my life around. 1,000,000%. I mean, I've got myself out of that flat and I've got myself into my house now, and that helps, of course. But having these amazing, incredible people in my life, is definitely a big part of it. There's people like yourself, Cobra Stacker, 365 Days of Silver, Future Investments, Coin Noob 71, and so many other people. I generally consider to be real, genuine friends. And I generally mean that. And having this experience and this this journey on YouTube, as it were, has just been incredible. There's so many things and highlights I can bring up. The 24-hour charity live we did last year.
That's amazing.
I think that was the first time you ever came on my channel, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. You, Cobra, and Future did the panel chat, didn't you?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah, and that was so much fun. It was grueling, but it was so much fun.
Yeah, much respected.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I just remember being at the end of it. I was so tired. I really
bet
was.
you was. I bet you was.
So cool because we did it so wrong. We decided to start it at like at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's correct. Yeah.
So I've been up all day already,
Yeah,
and then I started 24 hours. I should have started it around the time I got up. Just shorted that time down as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I can remember. I remember when I did it. My plan was, all right, I'm going to stay up really late tonight.
Yeah.
Get next to no sleep. And that will enable me to have a good old nap tomorrow afternoon. And then I can get up nice and refreshed.
Yeah.
Didn't work. I had no sleep the night before. Couldn't get to sleep in the daytime. So I started the 24-hour live. Absolutely shattered. Yeah, I did. And it was just such a grueling event. I mean, most of it's a blur. I can't actually remember. Like most of the second half, I can't remember it. I was so tired. But we had we had a target of £1,000. I thought,
she did.
I thought £1,000 was a huge amount. I mean, putting it in perspective, I've gone and got my tea from Tesco's before we started the live because I knew we'd probably be late when we finished. And as I was walking out, we've got the notice board. And my local Tesco superstore had £800 that they were able to raise for this charity.
Sure.
So you look at stuff like that and you think, £1,000 for me, little old me, a stat collector, to do would be amazing.
Yeah.
What I didn't realise is just how much the community was going to come together and support me through it and raise money, because we raised money for the British Heart Foundation.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And
look at me. That's correct. Of course, it's correct. You did it. Sorry, I was just agreeing with you.
I was so tired. I could have got it wrong.
Sorry.
Yeah, but so we did it for British Heart Foundation with a £1,000 target, and we got over £1,500.
Did it's amazing.
It truly was. People were donating things for Cobra to do a live charity auction on my channel. People were just making pledges and donations, and there was all kinds of fun games going off. Because I don't know if you remember, 365 and Cobra were at war at that time.
They were.
Parcel packaging war.
Packaging war.
Yeah, absolutely. And people could donate.
Jesus, that's just seems like yesterday, doesn't it?
Doesn't it just? Yeah, absolutely. So there were so many fun things we did. We had people coming on and having a laugh and a joke with us. It was the first time I ever spoke to Coin Noob Griff from TikTok.
Yeah.
I think Darth came. I think that was the first time Darth came on the channel.
Yeah.
Who was it? Someone was on holiday at the time. I don't know if it was APM or.
I think was it APM? No.
I think
might have been APM.
I think it was APM that was on holiday at the time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
and he came on. He came on very briefly from the beach, and so everyone was getting involved, and being the guy who put that together, I can't tell you how good that felt. Seeing all these fantastic people coming together, everyone having a laugh and a joke, and being the guy that put that together was. Honestly, I walked away from that feeling so proud of myself and the community for doing it.
You should, dude. It's funny because obviously I've watched that as I call it your brand, but I've watched you and your personality grow, and I honestly believe this. A large part of the community has grown around you and the offspin of what you've done.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, it is, and it's an absolute pleasure to watch. It's very lovely to be a part of to a degree, but it's very special to watch someone grow and become the real person that they truly want to be and express it in a way of freedom and be themselves, which now talking or listening to you and your story makes even more sense to me than before.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Absolutely more sense, and hopefully people will see that, and will see the reason why we're getting this wonderful, creative, imaginative, helpful, honest. Like, oh, look at me! Like, I'm really kicking you up the arse here, aren't I?
I'm glowing like Rildo's nose right now.
Yeah, sorry, but it's true, and it makes sense because we go through journeys watching
Yeah.
people, and sometimes like, oh God, yeah, whatever. But it's purely because we don't know the story.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't know the story, and then once you start to understand the story a little bit more, then it just wow, what a guy! That's really inspiring,
Oh,
really
thank you.
inspiring. And you know, you go on about the your charity night, but that's almost like with the generosity that considering the community wasn't. I think I personally think it's grown immensely since
Oh, it
then.
has. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And looking at what you did then as a community, and you know, and you putting it all together, and then watching from, although I'm getting my head around Discord and what's being built on Discord, and I know you're a heavy part of Discord, and seeing that community help promote, like with the generosity
Yeah.
of pushing that community. It's amazing what you're all doing. I'm
Oh,
just like
thank you.
amazed. It's really cool.
Thank
And
you.
it's really nice to be an old fart watching it.
Oh, awesome. With the Discord, I can't take all the credit for that. I
No,
really can't. I
yeah,
mean, just in case people weren't aware, Stacker Social was the brainchild of 365 Days of Silver, and it
yeah,
started off as a Telegram group, which was very, very limited. It was a brilliant idea, but very limited. And then we moved on to Discord because it enables us to offer so much more through the group. And yeah, I mean, I try and be as active as I possibly can be. I'm always there behind the scenes, you
yeah.
know, even if I'm not actively putting messaging on there, I'm always there, you know, just making sure everything's running okay, and you know that there's no issues. But you know, most of the time you can't even, if something did happen, you haven't even got a chance because it's got such a fantastic team of people in there. You've got 365 and Cyber Salman as co-founders. You've got the moderators in there who do an amazing job. They really do. You've got Silverpunk, Primo Prep. You know, there's Wingnut's not a moderator, but he is the technical support guy in Discord, and he's done so very much to help us, you know, with the technical side of things in Discord.
Yeah.
And when we first started Discord, I was so worried that I was going to have to go back and start relearning coding again, and knowing how much I really didn't enjoy it. I was a bit, you know,
Yeah,
I didn't want to do
yeah.
it. And then this absolute knight in shining armor presented himself, being Wingnut from over in Canada,
Yeah.
and you know, he's done so much with the you know, with the little tools that we use in Discord. You know, Primo, he's got some good experience when it comes to that kind of stuff as well. So he's been able to do a few bits. But it's been, you know, you know, there's so many great people in Discord. I don't even get a chance to do that much because they're just so, you know, they're so positive, they're so active.
Yeah.
You know, you see a notification. With my job, a lot of the times I can't be looking at my phone. You know,
Yeah, of course.
you know, like today, I've been slabbing today.
Yeah.
Covered in concrete. I can't be getting my phone out, you know, getting it concrete all over it. So,
yeah, exactly.
you know, you have to kind of wait till the end of the day, or when you take your lunch break or something to catch up. And by the time I get to that, you know, it's already been resolved because we're just straight on it. We're always there to help. And, you know, there's just this huge positive attitude of just wanting to, you know, I can only speak for myself. I can't really speak for the other guys in Discord, but I just think, you know, one of the main things about it is just having a support network for new stackers or inexperienced stackers. There's obviously the social aspect of it as well, where we can all get together and have a laugh, and that's the whole point of the stackers social main room.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a social room. That's anything goes. You can talk about anything you want within, you know, within reason.
Sure.
And then there's other rooms which are more, you know, dedicated to collecting old coins, collecting commemorative coins, investing in different types of investments like cryptos, the stock market, that kind of thing. And, you know, a big part of that is for us to try and help new people because, we want to see, like you said earlier, the community has grown so much in the last year.
Mm,
We want to see it grow 10 times what it is now,
sure.
100 times what it is now. Just like yourself. And I know, Cobra Stacker, he's doing the exact same thing with the auctions that he
Sure.
does. And I know he's very, very driven and motivated to building the community. And I think,
Hmm.
that's one of the great things, that we've got so many people in this community that
Mm.
all just want to help out as much as they can, and see it grow and support other stackers, and just be there, and see this what used to be a community of 2 or 3 YouTubers.
I know.
Yeah, just blossom into, there's so many now, and it's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Everyone collects slightly different, everyone stacks slightly different. And that, to me, I've always said, that's the best thing about it. There's no true right or wrong.
No.
You shouldn't just be going out and buying series coins. You shouldn't just be going out and buying standard bullion, unless that's what you want to do. Isn't
Sure.
if you want to just buy old antique silver like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
as long as you get it for the best price you can, when you can. I'm a bad example when it comes to that, because as a collector, I will pay over the odds for certain things if I
Yeah.
need it for the collection. You know what it's like. When you're doing your, because you've done your cucumbers and your
Yeah.
10-year date runs, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you know what it's like. When you've got those last 2 left,
Yeah.
kind of don't care what you pay for them, do you?
No.
It's just get them in my collection. I
Yeah.
don't want to know. I'm not buying it to sell it. I'm buying
Yeah.
it for me. It's just a
Yeah.
little treat for myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can pay a little higher than perhaps I should at times, but as I say, as a collector, there's certain things that I just have to have. It's like, my Kew Gardens. I had to have a Kew Gardens,
Sure.
and
Makes sense.
that cost me £200 when I bought my Kew Gardens, because it's not a circulating one. I know you've seen it before, but it's not even just a brilliant uncirculated one. It's a first day cover edition, which is limited to 10,000 worldwide.
Yeah.
And or as much as £200 signs. I bought it about a year ago, and it's now selling on eBay for £450.
Yeah, exactly.
So it has been a great investment. My worry of that is, and this is a true worry, that if a Royal Mint ever produce a circulating coin with a lower mintage than Kew Gardens, it loses all its value.
Yeah.
So there's a risk of that, because if you look at something like the 1992 European presidency 50p, that is the lowest minted 50p ever to go into circulation, much lower, half of what.
Yeah, I remember you saying this before, and I was like, really?
yeah, it's like 100,000 rather than 250,000, which is for Kew Gardens. But it's one of the older, large size 50p's, so it's not in circulation anymore. So you pick one of those up for roughly around 60 quid, whereas a circulating Kew Gardens will cost you 150 quid at the moment. So knowing that about the 1992 Euro presidency, there's always that little concern in the back of my mind that the value of a Kew Garden can just fall through the floor, at any point, depending what the Royal Mint do. So Royal Mint, please don't take Kew Gardens out of circulation. Please don't produce another coin with a lower mintage in circulation, and we'll be on.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Do you know one of the biggest things I've been impressed with the Stacker Social?
Okay.
And that is, whenever I've gone on, because I'm trying to find, I'm an old fart in a young man's bloody playground, really.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find my way around it. And I'm getting there slowly. But whenever I've been in there, it always seems to be someone that says hi.
Yeah.
Which
always
is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. And we've had next to no issues in there at all. We really have. There's been 1 or 2 very, very slight things that have been dealt with and sorted. But we really have had just such a great experience with it. Such great people, and like you say, you go in there and you can just talk. There's people. This is, for me, this is the best thing about Stacker Social, because I know there's so many people out there in this community that relate to this. You're a stacker or you're a coin collector, and you have this love for something, and you want to share it with someone, and you talk to your friends, you talk to your family, and you see that blank look on their face.
Yeah, no, not again. Shut up.
You're
Well,
talking
that's
about, well, it's a coin that I
yeah,
get from the till. What? I mean,
yeah,
and they don't understand, and they're not
yeah,
bothered, not interested. They can pretend to be interested, but that's,
yeah.
that's all they're doing is
It's
pretending.
just being
But
polite. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But in Stackers Social, it's a group of people that share that same common interest, and
mm,
they are interested. They do want to hear about this new coin you've picked up. They want to tell you about their new coin they've picked up.
yeah,
And I love that. That's my favorite part about it. It really
yeah,
is.
yeah. And they've got. Sorry, excuse me. I've really enjoyed the. See, coming back to you and this part you play in conjunction with it, like when you had Sion.
Yeah.
That was a fantastic night. I loved that, especially watching Cy get drunk. Um, that's so funny. But that was, I mean, this is what I mean. What you bring and what you've through your creativity is a perfect, well, to me, the viewer, is a perfect. What's the word? It's a perfect joining into that stack of social thing
Yeah, the
because it's
perfect
an
storm.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
an outlet for the promotional side of it that everyone's familiar with. It
Yeah.
just works. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And
It
I'm
does.
looking forward to your 31st thing.
Yes, yeah, we've had a couple of we've done a couple of specials. I did
Yeah.
this wasn't through Stack Social, but I did a Christmas special
Yeah.
last year,
You did.
which APM hosted, and we gave loads of stuff away, played loads of games, and
Yeah.
I organised the Secret Santa last year as well, which is something I'm definitely going to be organising again this year.
Yeah.
And I've always one of my main goals is I want my channel to be interactive.
Yeah.
I want people. I want people to have their say. I want them to, feel like they're part of
Yeah.
my channel.
Yeah.
That is a huge goal for me, and that's one of the reasons why I do the live streams every week.
Yeah.
It's why I'm more than happy to host for special occasions through Stackers Social. The one you were referring to with Cy there was when we hit 200 members.
That's right.
It
Yeah.
was still a very new group, and we had a load. And this is another occasion where the community got together, and we had so many things sent to us to give away. It was just absolutely
Mm.
phenomenal. It really was. But we are planning something for the end of this month, for 31st of August, which is going to be hosted on my
Yeah.
channel.
Give it a plug, mate. Go on.
Thank you very much, buddy.
Give it a
Yeah,
big
so
plug.
31st of August this year from 7 p.m. UK time, we're going to be having the Stackers Social 1 year birthday bash. And it's going to be an absolute night to remember. If you can make it there, please do, because you're not going to want to miss it. You will be able to watch it afterwards, but you're going to want to be there and be part of it. We've got about £1,000 worth of stuff to give away already.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. There's going to be so many giveaways. I mean, a big part of that is from Cobra Stacker. I don't know if you saw the planetary coins that he sent
I
across.
did. Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
amazing.
they're very, very high premium. I think those
Yeah.
three coins are about £500 alone. And then, I've donated things, 365's donated things, Size donated things, a load of members in the community have donated things. Everyone who's donated will get a huge shout out on the night. I can
No
assure
pressure,
you of
CPM.
that.
No
No,
pressure, CPM. Come on.
no pressure at all, but
Some.
get your hand in your pocket, mate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's going to be a good night, and there's going to be a very, very special duck race on that night.
Mate. Yeah. Because I was going to just say, about to say before I wrap that up, and the Stat Collector, probably the most famous duck race commentator I've ever heard in all my life.
Thank you. I'm getting quite good at it now. Actually, I've had so
More
much
than good at it, dude.
experience. But this one is going to be a duck race like you've never seen before on the channel. It is not going to be your standard weekly duck race. It's going to be very, very different and very, very special. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. But we are going to be playing other games as well. I'm looking to perhaps bring back the What's in the Box game that we played at the Christmas special,
Yeah.
something like that. But there's going to be a lot of fun games. There's going to be so many guests throughout the evening. Cyber Sam is going to be the co-host, so it's going to be me and Cy all
And a
night.
bottle of whiskey.
Yeah, on his side, I'm teetotal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we'll at least be the designated driver for the evening. So, but we've got so many people lined up that are going to pop on for brief interviews throughout the evening.
Wicked.
and say hello. And a lot of them are people that are involved through the Stacker Social to let us basically kind of do what we're doing tonight, but all about Stacker Social.
Yeah, of course.
The life of Stacker Social, how it started, exactly, where it got to, that kind of thing. And it's it's going to be so much fun. It really, really is. So yeah, if you can make it on the 31st of August, please do.
I'll be there for sure, mate. I'll be there for sure. That's 2 hours, dude.
Oh wow! It really does go like nothing, doesn't it? When you it
is, mate. And I want to talk forever, really. You've got to come back on because there's so much more I want to talk about your stack and your collecting and just stuff in general. I knew I'd really enjoy this, and I had a feeling I would not have enough time. So please, mate, we'll have to do a part 2.
Absolutely. I just want to say, and I know I said this to you before we started, I love being on this side, no technical issues. I've just got to sit here and talk, and I love it. I haven't got to watch, I haven't got to check my internet connection. I haven't got to make sure the camera feeds or the audio levels, none of that. So CPM, anytime you want me to come over and have a chat, my friend, I am more than happy to do that, buddy.
Yeah, and vice versa. And if you reach out to me, if you need support, I'll support you.
And vice versa, mate, man. Yeah, 100%.
100%. Dude, thank you so much. I've loved it. Where can we find the Stack Collector on YouTube?
On YouTube.
Just on YouTube. It's just called the Stack Collector.
Yeah, just Stack Collector on YouTube.
Anywhere else on socials?
Yeah. I have a TikTok and I have one video on TikTok. And that's because this was when I was on like 800 subscribers. The only reason I created a TikTok account was to watch CoinNoob's videos. He comes on, he's quite a regular guest on my channel. He's actually going to be joining me tomorrow evening.
Yes,
and he's a great guy, and I wanted to watch his content. But I logged onto TikTok one day when I had about 800 subscribers on YouTube, and having never put a video on TikTok, I had over 900 subscribers.
Wow.
Followers on TikTok, and I was like, what? How does that happen? So I put one video on there and my followers started going down. I was like, well, we'll leave that then.
Yeah, we'll leave that.
So, but yeah, no, it's just YouTube for me. There's no Instagram or I don't put things on TikTok or Facebook. I'm probably gonna have to create a Stack Collector Facebook because Cobra's just started a Facebook group, hasn't he, for his Cobra's Vault?
I do believe so. I'm not a great fan of Facebook myself, so
sorry. No, me neither, mate. I don't, when it comes to like personal Facebook, I really don't like it. It's very fake, and it's people, people showing their lives in through rose tinted glasses. And to many people out there, they look at that and, they're not in a good place in their life anyway. And it can make them feel even worse about themselves because they start to wonder, well, why haven't I got these wonderful things? And why am I not being able to go to these wonderful places? Exactly. And there's a lot of, through that kind of social media, there is quite a lot of toxicity in there. So I'm not a huge fan of Facebook itself. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to get over to the Cobra's Vault.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, mate. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you to do the honours and sign us off in your true fashionable way.
Well, before I do that, I want to say a massive thank you to you, CPM, for having me over, and I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's watched along with us today. I hope you've enjoyed the video, but that being the case, I've definitely rabbled on for long enough now. So I'm going to leave you all in the usual fashion by saying, well, until next time, look after each other, keep stacking, take care, and goodbye.
Love it. Cheers, dude. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.